Kratom is a tropical plant that grows in parts of Southeast Asia, especially in countries like Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia. For centuries, people in those regions used the leaves in traditional ways, often chewing them during long work days or brewing them into tea. Today, the substance has spread across the world and is sold openly in gas stations, smoke shops, and online stores. Many people assume that because it comes from a plant, it must be harmless. That belief has made kratom popular among people searching for energy boosts, pain relief, or a legal alternative to stronger substances. The leaves contain active chemicals called mitragynine and 7-hydroxymitragynine. These compounds affect the same opioid receptors in the brain that respond to substances like morphine and heroin. The difference is mostly intensity. Kratom usually produces weaker effects, but the way it interacts with the brain is still very similar. Once consumed, the chemicals move through the bloodstream and begin altering mood, pain perception, and energy levels. People take kratom in different forms. Some brew the powder into tea, while others swallow capsules or mix it into juice and energy drinks. The taste is often described as bitter and earthy. Beginners may only take small amounts, believing they are using something no more serious than strong coffee. At low doses, the effects can feel stimulating. Users often report feeling more awake, focused, motivated, and productive. At first, the experience may seem positive. Workouts feel easier, chores feel less exhausting, and social interactions can become smoother. Pain may fade into the background, which is why some people begin using it daily. Others use it to self-medicate anxiety, depression, or opioid withdrawal. Because it is legal in many areas, the psychological barrier that normally warns people about dangerous drugs becomes weaker. But the experience changes at higher doses. The stimulation fades and turns into sedation. The body becomes heavy and relaxed. Warmth spreads through the limbs and stress begins to dissolve. Many users describe the sensation as a gentle opioid-like comfort. Unlike alcohol, it may not immediately feel sloppy or chaotic. That sense of control is part of what makes the substance dangerous. Over time, the brain adapts to regular kratom use. Tolerance develops quickly, meaning the same amount stops producing the same effects. A person who once felt energized from a small dose may eventually need several times more just to feel normal. Daily use slowly trains the brain to expect the substance in order to function comfortably. Withdrawal symptoms begin when the drug is stopped after long-term use. Sweating, nausea, insomnia, anxiety, irritability, muscle aches, and restlessness are all common. While the symptoms are usually milder than heroin withdrawal, they are still very real. Many people who originally believed the plant was harmless are shocked by how difficult it becomes to quit. Some users also report emotional numbness after long periods of heavy use. Motivation fades unless kratom is taken again. Activities that once felt enjoyable lose their appeal. Relationships can suffer because the brain becomes dependent on chemical stimulation instead of natural reward systems. The legal status of kratom exists in a gray area. Some places ban it entirely, while others allow it without regulation. Products sold online often vary wildly in strength and purity. Some batches contain contaminants or dangerously high concentrations of active compounds. Because there is little oversight, users may not actually know what they are consuming. Supporters of kratom often call it a natural remedy, but the brain does not care whether a substance comes from a plant or a laboratory. What matters is how it changes brain chemistry. A naturally grown leaf can still produce addiction, dependence, and withdrawal. The label, natural, can create a false sense of safety that hides the real risks. Nitrous oxide, commonly known as laughing gas, is another substance people underestimate because it has medical uses. Dentists use it during procedures to calm patients and reduce anxiety. Recreational users inhale it from balloons, whipped cream chargers, or canisters at parties and music festivals. Because the high only lasts seconds, many people assume it is harmless fun. The gas enters the lungs almost instantly after inhalation. From there, it moves rapidly into the bloodstream and reaches the brain within moments. Nitrous oxide blocks NMDA receptors, which are involved in perception, memory, and sensory processing. These are similar brain systems affected by ketamine and PCP. The onset happens within seconds. Sound becomes distorted, almost as if the world is underwater. The body begins to feel detached and weightless. A wave of laughter or euphoria often follows. Thoughts can suddenly feel profound or deeply meaningful even if they make little sense afterward. During the peak, reality itself may briefly seem flexible. Some users hear ringing sounds or feel as though they are floating backward through space. Others experience a strange sensation that they have discovered an important secret about existence. The experience can feel dreamlike and surreal. Then it ends almost immediately. Within less than a minute, normal awareness returns. The user is left dizzy, slightly confused, and often craving another hit. That short duration is exactly what makes the substance risky. Because the effects disappear so quickly, people repeat the experience over and over in a single session. DXM, short for dextromethorphan, is another drug hidden inside an ordinary household product. It is the active ingredient in many over-the-counter cough syrups. At normal doses, it suppresses coughing. At high doses, it transforms into a dissociative hallucinogen capable of profoundly altering consciousness. People abuse DXM by drinking entire bottles of cough syrup, swallowing large amounts of gel capsules, or extracting the powder from medications. The slang term, robotripping, comes from a popular cough medicine brand. Many young users experiment with DXM because it is cheap and easy to obtain. Once inside the body, DXM is converted by the liver into a compound called DXO. This metabolite blocks NMDA receptors in the brain. The resulting effects resemble dissociative drugs like ketamine and PCP. The onset usually takes around an hour, making the experience slower and more gradual than many other substances. At first, users often feel nausea and stomach discomfort. Drinking large amounts of sugary cough syrup can make the body feel sick long before the hallucinations begin. As the drug takes hold, the body starts to feel distant and heavy, almost like it belongs to someone else. At lower doses, music may sound richer and emotions can feel softer. Reality becomes dreamy and blurred around the edges. Some people enjoy the floating sensation and emotional detachment. But the experience changes dramatically at higher doses. Strong DXM trips create full dissociation. Users may feel separated from their own bodies or believe they are watching themselves from across the room. Mirrors become deeply unsettling. Time stretches strangely, and familiar environments begin feeling unreal. Coordination disappears almost completely. Walking becomes stiff and robotic, which is where the term, robotripping, comes from. Speech may slur heavily. Thoughts become fragmented and difficult to control. Some users experience vivid closed-eye hallucinations. Others lose awareness of where their body ends and the surrounding space begins. Confusion becomes extreme, especially when large amounts are consumed. The come-down is often unpleasant. Grogginess, mental fog, exhaustion, and emotional numbness can last for many hours or even days. Because DXM tolerance develops rapidly, users often take increasingly larger doses to chase the same effects. Heavy abuse may damage memory and concentration. Some cough medicines also contain additional ingredients like acetaminophen or antihistamines. In high quantities, those ingredients can destroy the liver or cause dangerous overdoses even before the DXM itself becomes fatal. Researchers have also linked long-term dissociative abuse to brain damage. Chronic heavy use may impair cognition and emotional regulation. The temporary escape from reality can slowly weaken a person's connection to normal life. 2CB is a synthetic psychedelic first created in the 1970s. It exists somewhere between MDMA and LSD, combining emotional warmth with visual hallucinations. The substance became popular at clubs, raves, and festivals because many users view it as more manageable than a full LSD trip. The drug is usually swallowed as a pill or powder. After entering the body, it binds strongly to serotonin receptors, especially the receptors connected to mood and perception. The onset often begins within 30 to 45 minutes. Nausea is common during the early phase. Many users feel uncomfortable before the psychedelic effects fully emerge. Gradually, colors begin intensifying and patterns appear to move or breathe. The body may feel electrically sensitive, especially to touch and music. At moderate doses, the visuals are vivid but often less mentally overwhelming than LSD. Surfaces ripple softly and lights leave glowing trails behind moving objects. Music can feel physical, almost as if sound itself has texture. Emotionally, many users feel open and connected. Unlike MDMA, however, 2CB usually leaves people mentally clear enough to hold conversations and stay aware of their surroundings. That balance between stimulation and psychedelia is one reason it became so popular. But higher doses can quickly become overwhelming. Anxiety and paranoia may suddenly appear. Distorted thinking can trap users in uncomfortable mental loops. Because active doses are measured in milligrams, even small measuring mistakes can create a much stronger trip than expected. The experience usually lasts 4 to 6 hours. As the effects fade, visuals slowly disappear and thinking returns to normal. Some people feel peaceful afterward, while others feel mentally exhausted. Physically, 2CB is considered less toxic than some other synthetic drugs, but it still carries risks. Pills sold illegally may contain completely different substances. Users often trust what dealers claim without any way to verify purity or dosage. The environment also matters heavily. Psychedelics amplify emotion and perception. A safe environment with trusted people can feel magical, while a stressful or chaotic setting can quickly turn terrifying. A person's mental state before taking the drug strongly shapes the outcome. Some heavy users end up unable to walk normally. Others experience memory problems or chronic tingling sensations that never fully disappear. Because nitrous oxide is legal and common in medical settings, many people fail to recognize how damaging repeated abuse can become. GHB, or gamma-hydroxybutyrate, is a central nervous system depressant naturally found in tiny amounts inside the human body. Synthetic versions are used medically for certain sleep disorders, but recreational users consume it for euphoria and lowered inhibitions. The substance is usually taken as a clear liquid measured in tiny capsules or milliliters. That small measurement is important because the difference between a pleasant dose and a deadly one is dangerously narrow. Once consumed, GHB increases activity involving GABA, the neurotransmitter responsible for calming brain activity. It also influences dopamine release. Within 15 to 30 minutes, users begin feeling relaxed and euphoric. At lower doses, the experience can resemble alcohol without as much clumsiness. Anxiety melts away and social confidence rises. Music sounds better and physical touch feels enhanced. Many people describe it as smooth and comforting. But adding only a little more can change everything. Speech begins slurring, coordination collapses, and memory starts cutting out. Users may appear awake but later remember nothing. At slightly higher doses, unconsciousness becomes likely. Breathing slows dangerously and coma can occur. Many overdoses happen because users redose too soon before the first amount fully kicks in. Mixing GHB with alcohol or other depressants dramatically increases the danger. Because all of them slow breathing and brain activity, the combination can easily become fatal. The come down often leaves people nauseous, confused, and unable to remember much of the experience. Frequent use creates powerful dependence. Withdrawal symptoms can include tremors, panic, insomnia, hallucinations, and seizures. Severe GHB withdrawal sometimes requires hospitalization because the nervous system becomes dangerously overactive without the drug. The same substance that temporarily removes anxiety can eventually make normal life feel impossible without chemical assistance. PCP, originally developed as a surgical anesthetic, is one of the most unpredictable dissociative drugs. Doctors stopped using it medically because patients often woke up confused, agitated, and psychotic. Today, PCP appears mostly as a street drug smoked on cigarettes or mixed into marijuana joints. It can also be swallowed, snorted, or injected. The drug blocks NMDA receptors and disrupts the connection between sensation, emotion, and rational thinking. The onset depends on the method of use but often begins quickly when smoked. Users may first notice numbness and emotional detachment. Pain fades dramatically, which can make injuries go unnoticed. At lower doses, PCP creates distorted perception and feelings of floating or invincibility. But higher doses become deeply dangerous. Reality begins fracturing apart. Users may lose the ability to separate thoughts from actions. Some people become convinced they're indestructible. Others feel detached from consequences or trapped inside bizarre delusions. Time loses meaning and speech becomes incomprehensible. Because PCP numbs pain and fear, users may continue dangerous behavior far beyond normal physical limits. This is partly why stories about violent or bizarre PCP behavior became famous. The person is often disconnected from normal self-preservation instincts. As the drug wears off, confusion and paranoia may continue for hours or even days. Some people experience persistent psychosis or flashbacks long after the original intoxication ends. PCP is also psychologically addictive. The intense dissociation attracts users who want escape from emotional pain or reality itself. Unfortunately, repeated use often damages mental stability even further. Phenibut is another substance many people underestimate because it is sold online as a supplement in some countries. Developed in the Soviet Union, it was originally intended to reduce anxiety while preserving mental performance. The drug works primarily by enhancing GABA activity in the brain. Users often take it for social anxiety, insomnia, or stress relief. Unlike alcohol, the effects may feel calm and functional rather than chaotic. The onset is slow, sometimes taking several hours. Once it begins, conversations may suddenly feel easier and worries seem distant. Many users describe feeling like the best version of themselves. At moderate doses, music sounds richer and relaxation deepens. Sleep often becomes easier. Because the experience lacks obvious intoxication, people may assume regular use is safe. That assumption becomes dangerous quickly. Tolerance develops rapidly, especially with daily use. Within days or weeks, the original dose may stop working entirely. Users then increase the amount in an attempt to recreate the original calm. Eventually, the brain adapts so heavily that stopping becomes extremely difficult. Phenibut withdrawal is notorious for severe anxiety, panic attacks, insomnia, rapid heartbeat, tremors, hallucinations, and seizures. Some users describe it as one of the worst withdrawals they have ever experienced. The psychological rebound can be devastating. A person who originally used the drug to reduce anxiety may experience even worse anxiety once dependence develops. Recovery often requires slow medical tapering. Salvia divinorum is a psychoactive plant native to Mexico. Unlike classic psychedelics, salvia acts on kappa-opioid receptors rather than serotonin receptors. The result is an experience many users describe as alien and disturbing. People smoke dried leaves or concentrated extracts. The effects arrive almost instantly after inhalation. Within seconds, users may completely forget they consumed a drug. Reality itself seems to disappear and replace itself with something entirely different. Some users believe they have become objects such as furniture, walls, or even abstract concepts. Others feel pulled through dimensions or stretched across space. The loss of identity can be total. A person may forget their name, memories, and even the concept of being human. Unlike many psychedelics, salvia rarely produces feelings of joy or enlightenment. The experience is often confusing and emotionally cold. Laughter sometimes occurs, but it is usually automatic rather than genuinely happy. The trip lasts only 5 to 10 minutes, yet users frequently describe it as feeling endless. When reality finally returns, people are often left disturbed and disoriented. Many users say they never want to repeat the experience. Despite this, the substance remains legal in various places, partly because the effects are so unusual and difficult to compare to traditional drugs. Mephedrone, sometimes called meow meow, is a synthetic stimulant that became popular as a legal alternative to cocaine and MDMA. It floods the brain with serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine all at once. The drug is usually snorted or swallowed. The onset is rapid, especially when inhaled. Energy surges through the body and confidence rises dramatically. Users often become highly talkative, social, and euphoric. Music and physical touch feel intensely pleasurable. At first, the experience can seem perfect. The problem is how quickly the high fades. Within less than an hour, the euphoria starts disappearing and anxiety begins creeping in. Many users immediately crave another dose. That craving becomes the trap. People often binge repeatedly for hours or even days, chasing the powerful rush they felt at the beginning. Each dose becomes less satisfying than the last. As sleep deprivation and stimulant overload build, paranoia and emotional instability grow stronger. Some users begin hallucinating or believing people are watching them. The come down is harsh and emotionally draining. Depression, exhaustion, irritability, and emptiness can last for days. The brain's serotonin reserves become depleted, leaving users emotionally hollow. Long binges may also damage the cardiovascular system. Rapid heartbeat, chest pain, overheating, and dangerously high blood pressure are all possible during heavy use. 25-INBOME is a synthetic psychedelic often sold as LSD even though it is far more dangerous. The tabs look almost identical to acid blotter paper, so many users have no idea what they are actually taking. Once absorbed through the mouth, the drug binds aggressively to serotonin receptors in the brain. Visual distortions arrive quickly and intensely. Colors become unnaturally bright and patterns twist violently. Unlike LSD, the experience often feels physically uncomfortable. Users report tingling skin, muscle tension, numbness, and racing heartbeat. Anxiety can escalate rapidly into panic. The line between an active dose and a toxic dose is dangerously thin. Some people overdose from a single tab because the chemical is extremely potent. Seizures, dangerously high body temperature, heart problems, and breathing difficulties have all been reported. Some users suffer permanent injuries or die after taking amounts they believed were normal. The psychological effects can also become terrifying. Paranoia, confusion, and overwhelming hallucinations may trap users in panic for hours. Because the drug is frequently sold as LSD, people sometimes take multiple tabs expecting a familiar acid experience. That mistake has led to numerous medical emergencies. As the effects fade, exhaustion and emotional instability often remain. Many users describe the experience as harsh, chaotic, and physically frightening compared to traditional psychedelics. Even experienced psychedelic users are often shocked by how aggressive and unpredictable 25-INBOME feels. What begins as curiosity or search for enlightenment can quickly turn into a medical emergency. The substance does not offer much room for mistakes, and because fake tabs are impossible to identify by sight alone, many people unknowingly put their lives at risk the moment they place the blotter on their tongue. Many survivors of 25-INBOME describe the experience as mentally exhausting and physically brutal rather than insightful or enjoyable. The visuals may appear beautiful at first, but the body often feels tense, overheated, and unstable underneath the hallucinations. As panic grows, users can lose their sense of control completely, believing they are trapped inside the trip forever. Emergency rooms have reported cases involving seizures, violent confusion, self-harm, and heart complications linked to the substance. Because it is so commonly disguised as LSD, people often trust the tab they're given without questioning what is actually inside it. That false sense of familiarity has made 25-INBOME one of the most feared synthetic psychedelics in the world. Ibogaine is a powerful psychedelic compound extracted from the root bark of the African iboga plant. Unlike party drugs or recreational psychedelics, ibogaine is not usually taken for fun. For decades, underground clinics and alternative treatment centers have used it in attempts to treat opioid addiction. Most people who seek it out are desperate to escape addiction, especially dependence on heroin, fentanyl, or prescription painkillers. The experience begins slowly after swallowing capsules or powder. During the first few hours, nausea becomes intense and many users vomit repeatedly. The body starts feeling extremely heavy, almost impossible to move. Unlike stimulating psychedelics, ibogaine often forces people to lie completely still for long periods of time. As the substance spreads through the brain, it interacts with several neurotransmitter systems at once, including dopamine, serotonin, and opioid receptors. The result is not a colorful recreational trip. Instead, users often describe it as a long psychological confrontation with themselves. At the peak, the experience can last more than 24 hours. People report vivid visions, memories, and emotional experiences replaying in extreme detail. Forgotten childhood events, traumatic moments, broken relationships, and painful regrets may all return at once. Some users describe the experience as watching their entire life from outside their own body. Others feel trapped inside endless memories with no escape. There is rarely euphoria. Instead, the trip feels emotionally raw and deeply exhausting. Many addiction patients claim ibogaine temporarily removes opioid withdrawal symptoms almost completely. Cravings may suddenly disappear after years of dependency. This effect is one reason the drug became famous in underground recovery communities. Researchers believe ibogaine may reset certain addiction pathways inside the brain. After the experience, some people report feeling mentally separated from their cravings for the first time in years. The obsessive need to use opioids may suddenly feel quieter. But the substance comes with major risks. Ibogaine affects the electrical rhythm of the heart and can trigger dangerous irregular heartbeats. In some cases, people have died during treatment, especially those with hidden heart conditions. Because of these risks, many countries ban or heavily restrict ibogaine treatment. Underground clinics sometimes operate without proper medical supervision, making the experience even more dangerous. The physical exhaustion afterward can last for days. Users often feel emotionally drained, mentally overwhelmed, and physically weak. Some people describe the experience as life-changing, while others find it deeply traumatic. Even when ibogaine reduces withdrawal symptoms, addiction recovery is still complicated. Emotional pain, habits, environment, and mental health problems do not disappear overnight. Some users relapse after the treatment despite the intense psychological experience. The drug has gained an almost mythical reputation online because of stories describing miraculous recoveries. But for every success story, there are also accounts of terrifying trips, medical emergencies, and psychological breakdowns. Ibogaine sits in a strange category between medicine and psychedelic ordeal. It offers hope to some people trapped in severe addiction, yet it can also push the human body to dangerous limits. 5-MeO-DMT, often called toad venom, is considered one of the most powerful psychedelics in existence. It can be extracted from the venom of the Sonoran desert toad or created synthetically in laboratories. Unlike LSD or mushrooms, the experience is extremely short but unbelievably intense. The substance is usually vaporized and inhaled. Within seconds, the effects completely overwhelm normal consciousness. The onset is almost immediate. Reality does not slowly distort the way it does with most psychedelics. Instead, normal awareness seems to vanish instantly. Users often lose all sense of identity before they can even process what is happening. This is why people describe the experience as ego death. Memories, personality, language, and the feeling of being an individual human being can disappear completely. At the peak, there may be no thoughts, no sense of time, and no awareness of the body. Some users describe becoming part of an infinite white light or feeling merged with the entire universe. Others experience pure terror. Without a stable sense of self, the mind may interpret the experience as actual death. Panic becomes meaningless because the person experiencing it no longer feels separate from reality itself. There are usually few traditional hallucinations. Instead of seeing objects or patterns, users often describe entering a state beyond words entirely. Language becomes incapable of explaining what happened. Some people return from the experience believing they encountered God, eternity, or ultimate truth. Others return deeply shaken and emotionally disturbed. The trip itself may only last 10 to 20 minutes, but its psychological impact can remain for years. Many users spend months trying to process the experience afterward. During the come-down, awareness slowly rebuilds piece by piece. The user remembers their name, their body, and the room around them. This return to reality can feel emotional, confusing, or overwhelming. Unlike many drugs, 5-MeO-DMT is not usually associated with compulsive daily use. The intensity is so extreme that many people never want to repeat it. Some users report long-lasting anxiety, dissociation, or existential confusion after the experience.